Hey Nancy Drew fans! We're back for Book 3, The Bungalow Mystery. I have to say, this seems like a little bit of a misnomer. The bungalow in the title is actually only featured in 2 very short scenes. I'm guessing maybe the mystery of the boarded up shack just didn't have quite the same ring to it. We're pulled in by some pretty serious action. This is chapter 1, which is called A Blinding Storm, and there's a great illustration here. Nancy and her friend Helen are in a motorboat in the middle of a lake when a storm hits. Eventually the boat capsizes and Nancy is struggling to swim to shore with her and Helen, who's not a strong swimmer. They're saved by a young teenager named Laura, who turns out to be the center of this book's mystery. Again, here we see Nancy prepared for almost anything. A couple of my favorite examples. Nancy always keeps an overnight case in her car trunk, and in this case, we learn that she always carries pajamas and a robe, 2 changes of clothing, toilet articles, and a bathing suit. And the 2 changes of clothing are a simple black cotton dress and pumps, and walking shoes, sweater, and a skirt. Also, she's taken a course in automobile mechanics, and when her car won't start, she's able to diagnose that the distributor cap has been removed and the rotor is missing. This is the first time we meet a potential suitor of Nancy. His name is Don Chapman, and he's a handsome, tall, black-haired boy who helps with some of the detective work. He's justifiably impressed by Nancy when she's out in the field. He has a couple of great quotes. "Good thinking, Nancy," said Don admiringly. "You're a whiz of a detective, all right." Don Cameron shuddered, but looked at Nancy, admiration showing in his eyes. "You're the most courageous girl I've ever met," he said slowly. "Nancy, you might have been killed." Nancy puts herself in some real danger in this book, and there are a couple of times when I feel like she really crosses the line. Criminals are pretty psychotic, and there are several times when she's completely alone tracking them down and no one knows where she is. She hasn't involved the police. But ultimately, that's Nancy, and as this book describes, running away from a chance to pick up a clue is not in her nature. Another book comes to a close, and Nancy is feeling a sense of loneliness about the case being over. Luckily for her, the mystery at Lilac Inn is right around the corner. A quick note about the editions of the series that we're working with. So I'm mostly going off of this yellow version that was published in the 1960s. The series has gone through a number of rewrites over the years to modernize the content. This was the first major rewrite that brought about this yellow version to get rid of content that was racist or otherwise morally questionable. For example, Nancy no longer carries a revolver. I have never read any of the first editions, but certainly would be really curious to see what the other differences are.